Welcome to Flat Chat. This is the all-new Toyota Kluger.
And this is the not-so-new Mazda CX-9. It might have been around a few years, but it's still one of our very favourite large SUVs.
So what we want to find out today is whether the Kluger can beat the CX-9 to become the best family SUV you can buy right now. Hang around, because there is lots of ground to cover with these two.
Ooh.
But you get a really thin...
Ooh, don't stop making that sound. Oh, look at this. Just it's unstoppable. No, it has nothing to do with the reaction time. The Mazda is just faster.
And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and give this video a like. This is the all-new 4th generation Kluger, and it's big news. Aussies love these things. We've bought almost 200,000 of them since 2003. Headlines for this new model are impressive. Built in the US, it ushers in a new platform, more space in the cabin and boot, a richer standard equipment list, and the introduction of hybrid powertrains, with a hybrid 4-cylinder petrol offered alongside a petrol V6. The range starts at $47,650 for the front drive GX and tops out with the model that we're testing here, the Grande hybrid, which costs 75 grand.
For what was once quite an accessible and affordable model, the Kluger is getting pretty expensive.
It's very pricey. It's almost verging on luxury SUV
Yes.
territory, I would say. It's 75k.
But do you get enough gear to warrant that price?
The list is long, my friend, very long. We are getting lots of advanced safety systems, which you would expect at this price point and in this segment. You get niceties, 20-inch wheels, LED headlights, tail lights. This Grande spec adds a panoramic sunroof, which I really like. We get heated and cooled, ventilated front seats. So yeah, I do feel very well looked after.
And with the new version, we're getting a new look, but it's not too drastic, because it still looks like a Kluger. It's still pretty recognisable. But what do we feel about the actual general aesthetics and the styling?
Perhaps the best way to describe it is it feels American.
And there's a very good reason for that, isn't there? Of course, this car is made there, and I would say the American audience is far more important, far bigger than the Australian audience.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a particularly adventurous or classy styling direction, but there's nothing wrong with it either.
No, and to me, look, it's each to their own. Those blingy sort of chrome effect wheels and some body gaps that are a little bit questionable. It all just does look a little bit American to me. But anyway, I'm okay with it.
And who are we to judge on something as subjective as how a car looks?
Yes, precisely. What's far more objective is what's under the bonnet and under the bodywork. So this gets an all-new drivetrain, doesn't it?
An important one for this segment. It's hybrid powered.
Yes.
You get the choice of a hybrid engine in the Kluger range for the first time. So we are in the 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol, which is supplemented by 3 electric motors.
Now that's the big news, isn't it? Because it's 2 on the front axle, 1 on the rear. So it's still all-wheel drive, but it's just dealt with it in a very clever, very typically Toyota way.
Yeah, it's quite nice as well to drive, especially in urban environments like this, where you get the electric assistance and the silent propulsion in low-speed environments. I really do like that.
And what is also nice is the fuel economy that Toyota claim you get with it.
Yes, so 5.6 litres per 100 Ks, I think, is the official combined cycle rating for the hybrid.
Yes.
Which is much more impressive than you get from the other engine in the Kluger range.
8.7, isn't it?
Yeah, so the other engine you can have the Kluger with is a 3.5 litre Atmo V6.
Which is feeling its age a little bit now and a bit of a dinosaur, and with fuel economy figures like that, which personally I think you'd be doing very well to achieve, I think this is probably the efficiency and the hero of the range.
Yeah, I think the way that the hybrid powertrain is calibrated is also quite smart. The electric handover to internal combustion is quite smooth. You're not getting any, awful clunks or shakes through the powertrain or anything like that. It's paired nicely with what Toyota calls is an eCVT transmission. Driving it normally, it's a very smooth, progressive, quiet car most of the time, although sometimes when you really ask a lot of the engine, the 4-cylinder can sound a little bit vocal and maybe a little bit coarse.
It's not a bad sound, but it's just perhaps more sound than I was expecting. And yeah, as you say, it's a good handover between electric and combustion power. It's not quite as noticeable as some other Toyota hybrids. When you put your boot down, there isn't that immediate dollop of electric followed by combustion. It's kind of more mild.
Yeah, you're right. there's not a lot of performance on tap, but for a big car, I would say that there is an adequate amount.
Sure, loaded up with people and things, I'd be very interested to see how it's going, because you can't get it as a diesel. That would obviously be the pick, probably if you're doing a lot of heavy load and towing work.
But efficiency gains, and we are, sitting on around 6 litres consumption today. So I think the official claim isn't far away from what most families are going to get in day-to-day driving, which is good.
Even with your lead toe, that's pretty remarkable.
The rest of the chassis package is pretty much what you would expect from Toyota. The suspension going over big speed bumps like that is quite softly sprung, which I appreciate. Kids in the back are going to appreciate that as well. And the rest of the package, the steering is quite direct off center, which is nice, but then it sort of lightens up quite quickly, which can be a little bit disconcerting.
And also another typical Toyota trait. Yeah, this car has definitely not been tuned and honed to be some kind of racing machine. It is exactly what you'd expect, and I think they've absolutely nailed it there.
Yeah, it's family transport which matters most, and we know that families really prioritize interior space and practicality, so let's pull over and see how the cabin and equipment levels of this car compares with that Mazda. Okay, Dan, let's start in the second row of the Kluger, and first impressions are...
Tons of space everywhere, except for...
Yeah, headroom, unfortunately, because the sunroof really does impede upon headroom if you're a tall person over 6 foot. But if you're a small person or a child, loads of room, loads of knee room, loads of toe room. It's a nice place to be.
I particularly like how high this elevated second row seat is. It's good for 2 reasons. One, the view out of the front is very good, and also you get lots of under-thigh support because my feet feel like they're nice and low down on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. The seat itself is really comfortable, and it's important to have low sills like this for kids because they have a great view out. They're not going to feel claustrophobic, and you get lots of amenities. Look at this, window blinds.
Yes, and also we get our own climate control panel back here. Beneath that, I've got 2 2.1 amp USBs, loads of kit. Oh, and in the second row, we also get a centre armrest as well.
With 2 cup holders, which can swallow a big water
excessively sized bottle. I'm glad to see that making a reappearance. I've also got seat adjustment here. I can roll the seats forward and back.
Yes, and they also adjust the backrest angle for recline as well, which is quite groovy.
But that impacts third row seating space.
Yes, let's get in there and have a look because these are important. 7-seat cars. Let's see what the third row is like.
Very simple process to get to the third row. 1 lever, and that rolls everything forwards. Very convenient. And it's actually quite a bit more dignified than I was expecting getting in the third row. It's not too bad.
But once you're in here, it's not so dignified because we're lacking space big time. As you can see, I am behind my seating position where I was in the second row, and I have pretty much 0 knee room, and I'm very knees up. Headroom's also a bit of an issue.
No, terrible actually. I feel like I'm hemmed in on the sides, my head's touching the back of the roof. Very claustrophobic, not a great view out either forwards on the side windows. Because I'm right back by the D pillar, it's very limited.
Yeah, so I think adult space only for very, very short trips. So mostly a kid zone back here in the third row, but not all kids, Dan, because you can't actually put kiddie seats back here. There are no mounting points in the third row in the Kluger.
Oh, and speaking of things that are lacking, we also only have an air vent on the roof, no USBs, we've got a couple cup holders, but that's about it for facilities.
Yeah, there's not many amenities. So I think the second row is nice and roomy. You feel very well equipped back there, but it kind of not as great in the third row for the Kluger.
Let's see how the Mazda does. The Mazda CX-9 is one of the oldest models in this segment, although Mazda did treat it to an update earlier this year. That added some new model grades, new colour options and some equipment which included new infotainment system for the higher spec models. There's a reason the CX-9 is a benchmark family hauler. Despite its age, it continues to combine timeless design with a premium cabin, thoughtful packaging and well-sorted dynamics. First impressions back here, Alex, are perhaps a little less space. Certainly when it comes to knee room. I feel a little bit more hemmed in here.
Yeah, I think the perceived quality is higher, however, and there is one area where I do get more space, which is headroom.
That's arguably because we don't have a sunroof all the way back here, because you notice there is this little bulge in the ceiling for the forward row. And it is worth mentioning we're in the highest spec CX-9 here.
Yes, absolutely. So both these cars are top of their range. So this is the Azami. $70,000, so about $4,000 less expensive than the Toyota.
And that's why we are luxuriously sitting on these very nice upholstered seats. Leather in this nice walnut
Yeah, so the
colour, I
Azami
believe.
it was updated at the beginning of the year and it got 2 new leather treatments, a white or this lovely brown walnut with diamond stitching, which I like.
Yeah.
It feels way more premium back here than you do in the
Totally,
Kluger.
especially with these perforations in the leather as well. But yeah, so we're saying the space feels perhaps a little bit tighter in some places, but better in others.
Yeah, I think the seat comfort is better than the Toyota as well.
I think so. Better lower leg support. I feel like they're just a little more enveloping.
Yep. Gear-wise, you get exactly the same. So window blinds, our own little climate panel and air vents back here, a central armrest
Ooh.
with its own little
Ooh.
cubby and your 2 USB ports in there. So that's good. You get an additional cubby that you don't get in the Toyota.
A little bit neater.
You also get heated seats back here for the second row, which you don't get in the Toyota.
That's a big plus. So for me, this is already feeling a little bit more premium, a bit more comfortable. I'd happier spend more time back here.
Me too, but let's see what the third row is like. Like the Toyota, accessing the third row in the Mazda is a simple process of pulling one lever, although unlike the Toyota, the Mazda gives you the option of doing it electrically as well with this button down here. And you just simply push that forward and clamber in, which is very dignified. I think that space is actually wider than you get in the Kluger.
Yeah, you certainly had the advantage there.
I did.
Once you get back here, it's similar to the Kluger in some ways. Like I have little to no knee room at all. And also there's very little headroom. So it's a little bit cramped back here, just like the Toyota. But I feel like my feet are lower on the floor. So it's less of a knees in the face kind of proposition.
100%. And the cushion itself is also comfier. The cushion base is squishier. So I think I prefer it back here. It's more comfortable for adults.
Definitely. One thing you'll notice though, we are sat much closer together. It's a narrower seat bench because of these wheel arches intruding in here. So there's less space in that direction.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer because it kind of feels like you're putting your elbow in the cup holders.
Yeah.
Equipment-wise, it's a bit of a mixed bag between this and the Toyota as well because both get cup holders. The Mazda has 2 USB ports here.
But we
which is
don't
great.
get the air vents anywhere in the ceiling or otherwise. So yeah, there's to and fro there, a bit of give and take.
Yeah, absolutely. So on balance though, we need to decide a winner for second and third row comfort and amenity. Who are you giving the nod to, Dan?
For me, it has to be the Mazda in both second and third row. I feel like the quality is better in here, better use of materials. In places, it feels a little bit smaller than Kluger, but I feel like the Mazda makes better use of the space.
100% agree with you. It feels more luxurious, more premium in the Mazda for me, so it gets the win for second and third row. Let's see who wins when it comes to boot space.
Ooh.
Dan, let's start the boot section with a race. Both have automatic tailgates, but which is going to be quickest? 3, 2, 1, go! Oh,
Mazda, well ahead. Look at that.
worst drag race ever. But look, mine opens much taller than
No,
yours.
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? This one will push up a little further, but that's as far as you can set it to open.
Yeah, okay. Boot space wise, third row up, Kluger has the advantage. 240 litres behind the third row, plays 230 litres
10 litres.
in the Mazda, yeah.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but it can actually make a big difference. But of course, what's really important is how the boot spaces fare when you fold the third row seats down.
Yep.
Most of these cars won't have the third row in place all the time.
Actually folding the third row in the Mazda, nice and easy. Same process in the Kluger, so very simple.
Because we're scientists, we loaded both of these boots with all of these bags, and while they accommodated all the bags,
Yes.
the Mazda didn't do quite so well. Once again, it's those rear wheel arches intruding, so it is actually slightly narrower boot.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Toyota did win that. Both these cars fit all of these bags quite easily, so they are roomy. Although not quite as roomy as some of the cars in the class below. So with the third row folded, the Kluger has 550 litres of space. A RAV4, which is cheaper, has 580 litres of space.
Where does it find? It's like a TARDIS. There's also things worth mentioning. The detail and the cleverness of the packaging in the Kluger is actually better, isn't it? This has a space saver under the boot floor,
does.
whereas that has a full-size spare hidden underneath the car.
And the little cubby in the Kluger is a bit cleverer as well because it's got a little slot where you can put your parcel shelf, which is nice.
So in terms of boot space and innovativeness of storage, the Kluger wins it hands down.
Kluger takes the win. But let's see what they're like in terms of infotainment and front seat comfort. Okay, up front in the Kluger, first impressions?
2 words, weird layout. Look at this massive expanse of black plastic and cheap feeling buttons and dials, and in the middle of it all is this screen that just looks too small and the resolution's not very good, and this strange layout of sort of terraced bits and pieces. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It feels really weird.
There's not much finesse going on, is there? There is a lot happening, dominated by this big expanse of piano black with a very small screen in the middle. The screen is only 8 inches, and US cars actually get a much larger screen in there. They get 12.3 inches, I think. But Aussie cars and UK spec cars, we get stuck with an 8-inch screen.
Doesn't make any sense. Why don't we get that?
The screen itself is also a bit of a disappointment. Toyota's not known for high resolution and easy to use infotainment system, and this one's no exception. It's a bit laggy, and the resolution of the screen and also the resolution of the reversing camera, that's a big disappointment. That's a big turn off for me, actually.
In this day and age, when there are so many other competitors doing so much better, you cannot afford to get away with things like that. That is a really, really missed hit, that, definitely.
Wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. System works really well, although the screen is a touch laggy. Lots of USB ports and 12-volt sockets, and storage is actually pretty good up here. I've got 2 nice cup holders up the front, which easily take a takeaway coffee mug. And check this out, Dan, my huge oversized water bottle disappears in this central bin.
Oh.
It is that big. Look at it, gone.
Absolutely fantastic. Storage is excellent. I particularly like these little bins here, which are covered in a really nice material. Speaking of materials, it's not all great because this strange water transfer wood look, what is it even trying to be?
Very old school Toyota.
Not mad on that.
And I'm not mad on this hard plastic on top of the
Stop
instrument.
doing that, it's horrible.
So there are some hits and misses with this. I think overall space, storage is quite good, but the screen, the resolution of the camera, a bit of downside there. Let's see how this car compares against the Mazda.
Well, Alex, same question to you. We're now in the CX-9. What are your first impressions?
Really positive. The perceived quality, the sense of premiumness that you get in the Mazda is so much higher than you get in the Toyota.
Absolutely. From materials, I love this wood finish. It's not real like the Toyota, but it looks so much better and it feels better as well. And things like the materials on the dash, none of that horrible scratchy clattery plastic up there.
Yeah, perceived quality is much higher. Equipment levels are pretty similar. We both get heated and cooled front seats. You do get a heated steering wheel in the Mazda, which I like. Both cars get a head-up display and sunglass holders up here, which is nice.
Absolutely, and let's look at this screen, so much better. The proportions are better, a little bit more handsome, and it's not surrounded by all that unnecessary clutter. Looks a lot better.
It's very classy. And look at the resolution, Dan. It is so much better than you get in the Toyota. And the reversing camera is also something you can trust and rely on because you can see it.
Not too much to ask, is it? What about storage? Look, this, I know you're not a fan of this. This is
particularly right now with the car in park. This cubby in front is actually quite tricky to get things out of, like your phone. However, big cup holders in here for a coffee mug, but this central cubby is not as deep as the Toyota's. This does not disappear.
All right, for storage, perhaps not so good in the Mazda, but for just about everything else, bit of a win here.
Yeah, I would give the Mazda the win easily for front seat comfort and also ease of use of the infotainment system, because Mazda's proprietary system is also much simpler and easier to use, and it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well. So Mazda takes the win.
I think it's probably time we go for a drive.
Good idea.
The Mazda's doing bloody well up to this point, isn't it?
For an old dog, it's putting up a hell of a fight, that's for sure. I would actually say it's got its nose in front.
At this stage, yes. It is also rather expensive. About $70,000 for the one we're sat in right now.
However, if you do want to spend a little bit more than that, or exactly the same as the Kluger, you can get the Azami LE.
Oh, the one with the captain's chairs.
Yes, so it actually deletes the center pew back there and gives you 2 outboard captain's chairs, which is quite cool.
Yeah, but this one, like the Kluger, you do get a lot for your cash. Just like the Kluger, you get 20-inch wheels on the outside, you've got a sunroof on the inside.
Although this sunroof, I've got to say, Mazda does mean sunroofs. They're very small.
It's a bit embarrassing, we'll just go with that one like that. We've got a huge screen here, 10.25 inches. And of course, as you'd expect from a car of this price, a whole raft of safety and driver assistance systems.
Absolutely. Equipment-wise, these two cars are so evenly matched. The only difference is the Mazda has a few little niceties like a heated steering wheel, a heated second row. But you mentioned that screen before. That is key to the update that Mazda treated this car to about 6 months ago. And yeah, the system itself, as we discussed before in the infotainment section, very, very good. No complaints there.
The bit that really excites me about this car, Alex, is under the bonnet, because this has the 2.5 litre turbocharged Skyactiv G 4-cylinder engine.
Turbo power.
Yes.
And Oh, geez, it's got some poke.
It really does. Like, even jumping in this car this morning before I'd even looked at the Kluger, I thought, wow, it's got proper pep.
Yeah, absolutely. It even sounds kind of
It does.
mean.
It is a bit mean, actually, when you get real stuck into it. What a superb engine. 170 kilowatts and 420 Newton meters of torque.
Yeah, you couldn't actually get an engine that's probably more diametrically opposed from that Kluger in philosophy than this one. The power figure is a little bit less than you get in the Kluger, but that torque, 420 Newton meters, and you drive torque, as you know, I would say that this is actually the powertrain to pick of the two.
Oh, by a country mile, absolutely. It's paired with a 6-speed conventional automatic gearbox, which does a beautiful job. Actually, in my mind, it feels like it's got more gears in there, just driving it day to day.
Yeah, on paper, 6 gears seems so old school.
Yeah, it does.
Really, doesn't it? But it does a good job of, you don't really notice it. So.
No, it doesn't seem to want any more gears. So yeah, an absolute big tick there as well. The only thing though, the downside to that engine when you're comparing it with a hybrid of any sort really, especially the Kluger, is fuel economy.
You are going to pay for it at the Bowser, aren't you?
8.4 litres, Mazda claims for this. Again, like the Toyota, I think you'd be doing well if you actually achieved that figure, yes. So there's the price to pay. But honestly, for that engine and that performance, I absolutely would pay it.
The other difference between these two is in their chassis tuning. The Kluger is very soft, very comfort focused. This car is still comfortable. However, it has a bit more of a, would I say, sporty edge to its chassis tune?
I think when you're comparing it with the Kluger, this is like an F1 car by comparison, absolutely. Yeah, but not in a way that's really going to become tiresome. It's definitely firmer when you do a direct comparison, but it's on the sharper imperfections, it doesn't like it so much, but the damping is very nice.
It is.
And it pairs with a really, really good steering setup as well. Way more feel and way more positive, lots more feedback than the Toyota.
The downside is over speed bumps like that.
100%.
You do notice them. They do send sort of shockwaves through the cabin, much more so than in the Kluger. But the upside is greater body control. This is more fun to drive. So if you're out there looking at these two cars, you've got to balance up those different strengths and weaknesses. If it was my money, I'd go for this one. It's refined, it's quietly confident in what it does, and I would say it's actually probably classy. So between these two, when all things are considered, I think it's the CX-9 by a nose.
I'm going to have to say the same, totally. I just think as a cohesive, really comprehensive package, the Mazda does more for less cash, actually. It's very hard to go past this car. For me, it's this one too.
When it comes to putting some scores on the doors, these two family SUVs are remarkably close. And in the equipment stakes, it's a dead heat, as both flagship models are bursting with near identical levels of creature comforts and active safety systems.
The Toyota's hybrid system does boost fuel efficiency, but it adds a hefty premium to the asking price. So it's the Mazda that makes your cash go a little further.
Practicality needs to be a strength for a big family SUV, and it is with both of these cars, as they trade punches when it comes to space and ease of use. But it's the Kluger's wider boot that steals it a slight advantage.
A bigger boot, more spacious cabin, and lots of storage spots and cubbies makes the Toyota the choice if maximum space is your priority.
Things swing back in the Mazda's favour when it comes to driver enjoyment. The CX-9's tauter body control, better steering and punchier engine see it pull 2 points clear of the Kluger.
It's clear why Toyota's venerable Kluger continues to be such a popular model with Australian families, offering a compelling blend of practicality and a reputation for dependability. But with a strong combination of technology, driving dynamics and styling that refuses to date, the Mazda CX-9 manages to hold on to its title as one of the best all-round large SUVs money can buy.